Acumatica General Ledger. The Acumatica General Ledger, or GL, is a primary accounting record for a business. It tracks all financial transactions and is used to generate the company's financial statements, including income statements and balance sheets. It also provides the ability to track progress against budgets and forecasts. The GL summarizes the organization's financial transactions, such as accounts receivable, accounts payable, fixed assets, and inventory, by GL account and subaccount. The GL account represents the asset, liability, income, or expense, while the subaccount provides the user-defined dimensional reporting by department, region, product line, and whatever other dimensions the user wishes to define. Let's jump into Acumatica and take a look. As a controller, I used to start my day by sorting through emails, task lists, and the sticky notes around my monitor and all over my desk, not to mention the overflowing inbox. With Acumatica Cloud ERP, I now start my day with a dashboard that provides me the insights, alerts, and ability to take direct action or to assign tasks to my team. I can control the content on my dashboard by going into design mode and modifying, adding, or moving the widgets around as I need, so that I always have the information I need in order to keep track of the company. As a controller, I'm always interested in my cash balance. Here I can see in my main company, or in my main checking account, I have $99 million. I also have $31 million in my savings. If I look at my cash on demand in the next 30 days, it looks like $4.5 million is going to be needed. I can see I've got $3.8 million in overdue AR. Of that, $398,000, close to $400,000, is over the 90-day mark. Let's dig in and take a closer look at this. I can quickly see that widget credit card makes up the majority of my past due AR balance. Let's take a look at some of the invoices and see what's going on. I'll click on my side panel and I can scroll through each of the individual invoices. Note, as I click, the reference number is changing as well as the contents within the screen. This is a quick and easy way to get a view into what's going on with the various invoices. Well, I'm not seeing much here that's helping me figure out why Widget hasn't paid their bill. Let's go ahead and check out the customer record and see if we've got any activity there. I can see their balance is $580,000, and if I go to activities, oh boy, look at this. Their credit card expired and they were notified quite a while ago. Let's dig a little deeper. I can see their default payment method is credit card, so that makes sense why they're past due. I also see they have a parent company, but we're not consolidating all of their balances in their statements. Let's see what the balance is on the parent company. Looks like they're pretty current. That's good news. So I assume this is going to work out okay. Let's create some activities for the team members. First off, let's create a task. Let's assign this to Max Baker. There's a quick message for Max. See if you can get this done right away. Let's give him a deadline of this Friday. I think for now, let's put this customer on credit hold. Go ahead and save that, and then I'll just add a note so everybody knows I was the one that put them on credit hold. Well, that should help clear up the majority of the balance past due on the AR side. Let's take a look at some of this AP that we have going on. I can see our AP balance is $1.22 million. Let's dig in. I see Conjet has a pretty big balance with us. A couple of items here. Let's see what the side panel has to say about these bills. Looks like we've got a couple of products from them, and they were all on purchase orders. I see I've got some activities on the purchase order. Product damaged. The product was received but damaged. Okay. looks like we've got a picture here as well. Well, that's not good. I don't think we should be paying for this equipment. Let's go back to the vendor record and create some action items for some team members. On the Activities tab, I can add some tasks. Let's assign them to Max Baker. And give Max a due date, again, of this Friday. Let's make sure our AP team knows as well. This one gets assigned to Michael Andrews. We'll let him know that Max is looking for a credit memo. Looks good. Let's move this due date out. That should give him plenty of time to get this resolved. Now that we've cleared up some of the AP overdue and some of the AR overdue, and we've got some action items on the go with some team members, let's talk a little bit about some of the other features within Acumatica General Ledger. Let's go to the Finance workspace. How about we start with a profit and loss rolling 12-month report. I'm going to backdate this a little bit so I've got a full year's worth of data that we can talk about. You'll notice right away that everything is in blue. That means it's hyperlinked. So I can drill down through any of these numbers on the screen. If I wanted to, I could export it to Excel or PDF, or I could send it from here in an email. I can also print it. If I wanted to see what it looked like as a PDF, I can click the PDF icon. Let's drill down and see what we find. I'm going to drill down on the sales revenue for 12/20/21 simply by clicking on the numbers. This takes me to my General Ledger detail report, which breaks my information out by account and sub-account. Let's drill a little further and explore what's behind these numbers. Clicking on one of the accounts takes me into an account detail screen, which is specific to a period. It's from to period, and it's also looking at the particular account and sub-account I clicked on. Now I'm seeing some of the transactions that actually make up that number for that line of the GL detail report. Remember, I clicked on this third one from the bottom. See how the numbers match? Now from here, if I wanted to, if I like debits and credits, I can click on this reference number and it'll take me into the GL journal entry screen so I can see those debits and credits. Note, from here I could also drill back to the source document. That means that simply going into a journal transaction screen, you have the ability to see transactions from all different modules and drill back into the source documents. Let's click on this other reference number. This one takes us into the source document directly. Rather than going to the debit and credit in the journal entry, then to the source document, I can go directly to the source document. In this case, it's an AR invoice. If I wanted to, from this AR invoice, I can also drill back up to the journal transaction. Pretty neat. Now that we've drilled up and back, let's see what else we can do with our financial report. Well, I notice here I have a tree grouping. Let's click on it. Well, in this instance, we've used a unit set, and the unit set is broken out by branch. So if I click on my products branch, I can see the data gets filtered down to that individual branch. You might have noticed that initially we were at the consolidated level, which brings all of the branch numbers up into a consolidated report. If I click on wholesale, it changes again, services east, and I have the ability to create my groupings by company, by branch, by segment of my sub-account. If I come back to the edit screen, one other feature that's kind of neat is I can create a template. And in that template, I can specify how I want this report rendered and who I might want this to be sent to. If that looks good, I can also schedule this template. I can set the interval on which this runs, when it starts, and it'll automatically send reports out to the individuals that are listed on the template. At any time, I can come in and modify this template and have it run under different conditions or at a different interval. Let's take a closer look at the journal transaction screen. Note, when I hover over the journal transaction menu selection, I can either click on the words journal transaction, that takes me into search mode, or I can click on new, which will start a new transaction. I can also click the star to the left, and that'll make the journal transaction screen one of my favorites, making it accessible through my favorites workspace. Let's go ahead and go into search mode to start. Now, Acumatica has done a good bit of research and it's determined that most of the time we're searching for a transaction, especially in a world where many of our transactions are automated, imported into the system, or fed into the system through an API in an automated way. To help facilitate that search, Acumatica has added a host of features in addition to the universal search. With any grid within Acumatica, you have the ability to move your fields around, use the field selector to add additional fields, search in every one of the columns, or use the filter bar up top. As well as use the search box in the upper right to search on various fields within the system. You can also create your own filters. So you can have a filtered tab that quickly gets you down to the data that you want to see. Let's clear some of our filters out. And let's drill down into the journal transaction. Simply clicking on the journal transaction opens the screen and brings the transaction forward for me. You'll note right away the green release button is active. This is indicating that it's the next step in the process that should be taken for this journal transaction. Of course, you have control over that workflow, which buttons display and in which order, as well as adding in your own workflow and additional statuses. Let's look at our Action submenu, and you can see in the Action submenu the green button next to the release. If I wanted to, I could also have another action item pop up for me. In this case, I'll click Hold as a favorite by clicking the star to the left. Note that now it adds the hold to the menu. Let's go ahead and remove that. Let's talk about some of the menu items here. Going across the top, this is our common toolbar. Here we can discard an item, save and close, save, cancel, add a new item, delete. We have the ability to copy, paste, and also save a journal transaction as a template. Let's go ahead and give this a try. Pretty quick and easy. There's a new journal transaction. Let's go back to the one we are working on. And explore a little further. You can see in the upper right I have some notes. These are my document level notes. Activities are a great way to track what's going on with a particular transaction, who's interacting with it, and what's the latest updates. In this case, I have a note. This note has a date stamp on it. It's also associated with a particular user. And if I were to just look at the note individual from this transaction screen, I could be able to link right back to this transaction screen. I can add chats, escalations, messages, notes, phone calls, work items. I can also add my user-defined activity types. If I wanted to assign a task to a user, it's quick and easy. I click the Add Task, my note, I select a due date if I choose, and I can assign it to a user. When the user receives the alert, either via email, through their dashboard, or through an SMS message that they have a new task assigned, they'll be able to quickly look at that task, click the link, and go directly to the transaction that you're referencing. Files are also a great aid. In this case, we've got an Excel spreadsheet that was attached, represents some backup for this journal transaction. I have lots of ways that I can add a file to the system. I can add a link to an existing file. I can also scan a document and have it automatically loaded into the system and indexed. I can use the mobile app to upload an image. I can browse my directory on my local hard drive or even on my network and find files that I want to attach. I can also drag and drop a file and have it attached. Without even opening the Files section, if I wanted to, I can drag and drop a file into the drop zone, and note, now I have 3 files loaded into the system. At the top of the detail grid, I have my Detail section common toolbar. Refresh, add a row, switch between grid and form view. Handy function when you want to see a very long row of records in a simple form view. Delete a row, and of course you've seen this button before, View Source Document. These will vary depending on the screen you're on, but this allows you, if this journal entry was created from another module, a subsidiary module like AP or AR or Inventory, to click and view the source document. And if this had been reclassified or was a reclass journal entry, we could see the reclassification history. So this allows us to fit the grid to the screen. Export to Excel. Let's go ahead and kick that off. And the next option over is the ability to load lines from an Excel file. As you can see, the lines are quickly and easily parsed. Let's go ahead and make a change to this and load it back in. How about we make this $150,000. As I click the upload, I'm going to go ahead and say insert all records. I have some options here to update existing, bypass existing, and insert all. I'll say OK. It automatically picks up my mapping between my Acumatica columns in my screen and my Excel spreadsheet. But since I use the export as my template, it's already mapped for me easily. And as you can see, my additional lines were added in here. As with any grid within Acumatica, you have the ability to rearrange your columns in the order that you want, and to utilize the field selector to add or remove fields. Available with all Acumatica forms or screens is the Help feature. This is context-sensitive help, so when I open it on a journal transaction screen, it gives me information about journal transaction processing and activities, and note there are videos that are linked to these help articles. There's some related topics as well as a form reference that'll explain what each of the fields, buttons, and action menu items represent within this screen and the values that you can use to populate them. Allocation rules automate the process of periodically distributing amounts posted to a particular account and sub-account pair among different account and sub-account pairs. For example, suppose you post rental expense to one account sub-account pair instead of splitting the expense among multiple branches, departments, or other account sub-account pairs that represent a finer parsing of the data for reporting purposes. With allocations, you can create a rule to distribute expenses based on percent, by weighted amount, by destination account, period to date or year to date, by head count, or other statistical data. In this case, we've looked at allocation by account, period to date, and we're doing a distribution method by percent. I also have the options of weight, destination account, period to date, and destination account, year to date. I set up my source account and I set up my destination accounts, and in this case I set my weighted average. If I wanted to see the allocation history, I can see the journal entries that were created from previous runs of this allocation. Once I've created my allocation, I have the ability to then run allocations on a monthly basis, either manually or to schedule those allocations as needed. Anywhere in Acumatica where you see this schedule function, you have the ability to schedule and automate the feature even further. Recurring transactions provide for the creation and automation of journal entries that are processed on a recurring basis. These can represent automatic deductions from cash accounts for fees or subscription services, to reduce prepaid amounts, or to record any other recurring entry required. From the Recurring Transactions profile screen, you can manage and review existing recurring schedules as well as documents generated from the recurring transactions. Let's take a look at one of the recurring transactions that's set up. I can see I have a schedule ID which is assigned by the system, a start date. Of course, I know that it's active, it never expires, and I have a description that I've created. I can see my last execution date and my next execution date, and I have my schedule. Here I have it set monthly. It's every 1 month on the first day of the month. I can also view the generated documents, which represent a journal transaction. And I can see that the original batch is the GL83. If I go back to my batch list, I see my GL83 is the source of my recurring transaction. The normal process for creating a recurring journal transaction is to go in and book a journal entry, put it on a balance status, and then click here. Instead of View Schedule, it would be Add Schedule. Let's take a look at one. I'll navigate to my journal transaction screen. We'll bring up a batch that we had worked on with previously, and we'll say Action, Add to Schedule. Now I have a transaction that's ready to be set up as a recurring transaction. It's referencing the journal entry I've selected, and all I need to do is set my schedule, give it a name, and save. The Acumatica budget feature allows users to create an unlimited number of single-level or multi-level budgets and/or forecasts. The budgets and forecasts can be automatically created based on historical data or externally created and imported. For our example today, we're looking at branch product wholesale, we're looking at the ledger budget, and we're looking at the financial year of 2021. And we're in tree view mode. The tree view means that we've created these nodes, and under each of these nodes we've loaded the account sub-accounts that should be included in that node. It's also a way to create security around that node to limit visibility so that you can control which users see which groupings of budget articles. We'll talk more about that later when we look at budget configuration. The next three fields are about comparison. We can compare to a branch, to a ledger, and to a year. And we're in 2021, so let's compare it to 2020. What we see is the compared line is populated beneath the actual budget line for the current year. Pretty handy. Let's remove that filter for the comparison. The next filter is the sub-account. If I'd like, I can press F3 and have the system filter down the budget items so that I'm only seeing budget items related to a particular sub-account or segment of the sub-account. The tree node filter allows me to type in the name of my node, revenue, purchasing, operating, and have the system filter down to those items for me. Let's go back into simple mode and let's look at preloading some articles. The Preload Articles function allows us to look into our system and grab information from a particular branch, a ledger, and a fiscal year. Let's grab 2020 and then add a multiplier to it if we choose, so that we can load those articles and apply that budget for our next fiscal year. In this second screen, I have the ability to filter which accounts from and to, or account mask and sub-account mask to use for this population. The third screen talks about how I'd like to update my budget. Do I want to update the existing articles? That means for the lines that already exist, combinations of accounts and sub-accounts, I want to apply my calculation to update my budget values. Do I want to update the existing articles in the next option and then load articles that aren't already in here? That means update the articles that I've already loaded into my budget and then look for account sub-account combinations that I'm missing and load those in as well. Or do I wish to leave my current budget as is and simply load the non-existent articles? The Manage Budget gives me the option to roll back the released values. This means all budget articles will be rolled back to the last released values, and any changes that I've made will be lost. The other option that we have within the Manage Budget is to convert budget using the current budget tree. You remember when we clicked on tree and we saw our nodes? If we created a simple budget or imported a budget and we wish to convert it into the nodes, we can use this option. The system will read from our configuration and automatically place these articles into the proper node. Let's take a look at our budget configuration. In the budget configuration, you have the ability to define your trees, populate a mask for your accounts and sub-accounts, preload those articles, and then configure security. Another way to manage your budget is to export it to Excel, make your manual changes, and then load it back into this screen using the Load Records from File option. If you wanted to update a single line in your budget, you click and type the amount in the amount column, and you can choose the option to distribute. You can distribute evenly, you can do it proportionally from to the previous year. You can apply this to all articles in the node, and you can apply to sub-articles. I can also go in and manually adjust each of the periods. If I do make an adjustment to a particular period and I click Save, and it hasn't been distributed, I will get an alert that I need to distribute that amount. Let's distribute this one evenly. And we'll save. Now, once we've created a budget revision, we need to release our budgets. Here I'll find the changes that I've made. Process completed. Now when I run my financial reports that include budget comparison, my updated budget value will be displayed. With Acumatica Journal Vouchers, users can quickly enter a batch of documents of different types, including vendor bills, prepayments, customer invoices, payments, cash receipts, disbursements, and general ledger journal entries. Users need to enter only the key values for each document type. Other elements are populated with default values. You can also apply payments to the documents of a batch. The processing of a journal voucher requires the following steps. Define the transaction codes through the voucher entry code screen. Each of these codes are associated with a particular module. Add your batch section. Define the branch, ledger, your dates, period to post, and your description, and then add your documents. As you add your documents, you can then apply payments, either AP payment application or AR payment applications. If you have multiple lines that need to be distributed differently for a single document, you can use the split function to indicate that they should all be part of the same document. Releasing the journal voucher will create the entry in the corresponding module related to the transaction code. The reference number, which is auto-assigned by the system, is the same reference number that you'll see in the corresponding module. In this case, we have AP bill lines that reference to the AP Bills and Adjustment screen. Note there are 3 transaction lines and 1 line for the AP offset. Here are our 3 transaction lines and our AP entry. If I click back into that AP Bills and Adjustment screen and click on my Financials tab, I can click and see the journal entry that resulted. Managing financial periods and years. In Acumatica, transactions are posted to financial periods defined in the system. During the configuration of the general ledger, you have to define the structure of the financial year. Based on the structure of the financial year, you can generate periods for any number of financial years. In my Acumatica instance, I have centralized period management enabled, so management of financial periods is through the master financial calendar. You can use a variety of defined period structures, including month-based, week-based, calendar-based, and custom number of periods. Users can post transactions to periods that are open, or in some cases both open and closed, depending on the conditions in the GL Preferences screen for restricting access to closed periods. On the Master Financial Calendar screen, users can generate periods. They can open periods, close periods, lock periods, deactivate periods, reopen periods, and unlock periods. When periods have been generated, you can modify them before any transactions have been made. To do so, you select the user-defined periods and make your modifications. We'll cover modifying periods in a separate video. In Acumatica, you can implement multiple legal entities within the same tenant. Note here I have 3 companies and 4 branches. Each of these companies could be considered separate legal entities. With multiple calendar support feature enabled, you can configure multiple companies with different fiscal year-end dates within one tenant. Once all the needed transactions have been posted to a financial period and all the figures have been verified, you can close the financial period in the system. The following capabilities are available. You can close multiple periods at the same time, for instance, all periods of a financial year. Financial periods can be closed starting from the first period of the first financial year. You cannot close a financial period if the previous one has not been closed yet, unless it is being closed at the same time. Once closed, a period can be reopened if needed. You generally close periods to prevent unauthorized users from posting transactions to the period. However, you can allow users to enter documents and post transactions to close periods depending on your GL preferences and your restriction on access. This concludes our review of the Acumatica General Ledger.